What's your most current understanding of where things stand right now?
I'm optimistic. I knew it would come down. Deadlines sometimes do that. You don't get a final reasonable offer till the end. But we want to see some significant progress, particularly on steel and aluminum, the 232 tariffs. I'm hearing that there has been progress made. And so I think the Prime Minister, after briefing the premiers, will bring the country and the sectors and leaders in because we need this to be a Team Canada effort.
So we've been listening for any bit of reaction. We've heard from a few premiers so far, Scott Moe in Saskatchewan, Tim Houston, Nova Scotia. Let's just have a quick listen to the essence of what they said.
Today, with the agreement in principle that has come to last night, the first point I would make is that the 50% tariffs on $28 billion of Canadian goods, which would have an impact on Saskatchewan industries, is not coming into effect. That is not coming into effect, and that, I think, is step one, and that is a positive step.
I'm really optimistic about what I heard today. We heard some details, but obviously some are still being worked out. But I mean, the broad strokes of it seem really good for Canada.
What do those optimistic tones tell you?
It tells me that premiers are going to be looking at the national interest and trying to maintain a Team Canada front, realizing that we're in this position because President Trump has a penchant for tariffs, and he really has an outdated, frankly, view of global trade, but we have to deal with the White House as it is. So there's going to be a bit of water in everyone's wine here, but I'm optimistic that we can drive for a deal because we can't get it with the Americans unless there's provincial alignment, particularly the provinces that are holding back American alcohol from their shelves. So we're going to need to resolve that as part of this deal. And it sounds like the provinces may be getting on board for that.
Well, this all makes me wonder what Doug Ford is going to say in Ontario. Who are you waiting to hear from?
I think the critical ones are, of course, Doug Ford and Premier Eby in British Columbia. There hasn't been as much talk about the negative impact of the additional sector tariffs on softwood lumber. As Canadians would probably know, softwood lumber is one of the long-standing trade irritants between Canada and the US, but they've doubled up by putting a 10% sector tariff on softwood. That never made sense. You know, we don't sail wooden ships anymore, so to suggest that this is needed for the security of the United States is a bit of a stretch. So I think BC may see less action on movement than, say, the steel and aluminum and auto tariffs that, of course, Premier Ford has thousands of workers impacted by. And if we can get some positive movement down on those, it's probably worth putting the bourbon and the California Reds back on the shelves.
You know, I hear the U.S. president say things like, our farmers, meaning American farmers, will be happy. And that makes me think that Canadian farmers must hear that and be afraid.
Well, supply management is, like softwood, something that a lot of Canadians probably know quite a bit about. But we do let a certain amount of foreign quota of cheese, or mainly cheese, but some milk, into Canada. We did that with the European trade deal back when I was in the Harper government. And we allow some tariff rate quota of American product, mainly cheese, into Canada. Right now, the Americans haven't been taking full advantage of that, and they want some flexibility on how they take that quota. So I think farmers, if we're able to work within that quota that's already allowed, showing flexibility is not really a concession. It's just recognizing the new needs of grocery and these sorts of things. And I think everyone wants to also see that sector survive for our food security, but to also be a little bit flexible so we can get a deal done.
How much trust do you think anyone should have in this deal?
That's why I said we wanted to get it in writing from the beginning. Everyone knows what the president says late night on social media, his cabinet almost has to respond to. So there's two deals here. There's the negotiation table that Jenna Charette and Dominic LeBlanc have been at with Jameson Greer. Then there's the prime minister's dealings with President Trump, and President Trump will have to abide by this agreement. It is in the American interest too, because tariffs are actually making America expensive again. And if you're looking at the midterm elections coming up in the US, cost of living is something that is hurting Republicans. So let's get costs down. Let's use the supply chains that have made North America competitive. Let's use Canadian energy and other resources to help have a strong economy, both for Canadian workers and American.
Okay. Erin O'Toole, thank you. I feel like we'll be talking again.
Likely in the next 24 hours or so.
All right. Thank you. And just after that conversation, BC Premier David Eby did issue a statement saying, quote, BC stands with Team Canada. While no agreement will offer everything our country is hoping for, the federal government has made substantial progress across strategic sectors.